Good afternoon, class. I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to read from the book on pages 114 and 117, so follow along with me. I hope you're all doing well. Explain factors that influence economic growth and report their presence or absence in Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Human capital means the knowledge and skills that make it possible for workers to earn a living producing goods or services. The more skills and education workers have, the better they are able to work without mistakes and to learn new jobs as technology changes. Companies that invest in better training and education for their workers generally earn more profits. Good companies also try to make sure working conditions are safe and efficient so their workers can do their jobs without risk. The gross domestic product, or GDP, is the total value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a single year. Wealthy countries have a much higher per capita GDP amount of goods and services produced divided by the total population than do developing or underdeveloping countries. Companies that have invested in their human capital through training and education are more likely to have profitable businesses and more satisfied workers than companies that do not make these investments. Countries where training and education are more easily available often have higher production levels of goods and services, therefore higher gross GDP, than countries that do not offer these opportunities. The countries in Southwest Asia have widely different GDP levels. Those countries that make it possible for workers to receive training and education tend to be wealthier than those that do not. Israel has a wide access to education and an economy that depends on technology industries to make up for the country's lack of natural resources. Many Israelis work in industries related to medical technology, agricultural technology, mining, and electronics. They also have highly developed service industries, businesses that supply the needs of the rest of the working population. The Israeli GDP is very high because they have invested in their human capital. Saudi Arabia's main industry is an exporter of oil, petroleum, and petroleum products. The technology involved in the oil industry is complicated and requires a well-trained and educated labor force. Saudi Arabia also has modern communications and transportation systems, as well as enormous building projects, all of which require investments in human capital. By contrast, some Saudi citizens still practice traditional economic activities such as farming and herding of animals. Because oil is such an important part of the world's economy, however, the Saudi GDP is high. When Mustafa Kemal Atatürk became the president of Turkey, he instituted many reforms. Some of the most important reforms focused on education in Turkey. Today, the literacy rate in Turkey is about 95%. There is a slight gender gap, with the male literacy rate reaching 98% and the female literacy rate reaching 92%. Most students attend school for 16 years, which is similar to how long students in the United States go to school. Engineering programs are some of the most popular degrees in Turkey's universities and colleges. Compared to other countries in the world, however, Turkey does not invest as much in education. Turkey invests about 3% of its GDP in education, which makes it ranked about 142nd in the world for educational spending. So let's flash back on question 308. What is human capital? A, skills and education workers have. B, taxes collected from a country's workers. C, money paid to workers for producing goods. Or D, the amount of goods sold in foreign trade in a year. Moving on to capital goods. Capital goods, which are the factories, the machines, and the technology that people use to make other goods, are important to economic growth. Advanced technology and the organization of its technology into factories where many workers work together, increasing production and make production more efficient. Producing more goods for sale in a quicker and more efficient way leads to economic growth and greater profit. This greater profit leads to a higher gross GDP. Israel has invested heavily in capital goods, as so much of their economy depends on technology and industrial production, as well as advanced communication systems. Israel has also invested heavily in the technology involved in the defense industry. Saudi Arabia has invested heavily in capital goods, especially the technology related to oil production, transportation, and communication. Turkey's main natural resources help its economy. One of the most important natural resources is arable land. Almost half of Turkey's land is used for agriculture, which means that this fertile land is very valuable. And Turkey's mineral wealth ranks 10th in the world. The main minerals include coal, iron, ore, copper, chromium, antimony, mercury, gold, and others. Turkey is also able to create a lot of hydroelectricity from dams on the Euphrates, Tigris, and other rivers in their country. There is some oil found in Turkey, but it does not meet Turkey's energy needs. Finally, Turkey has a large deposit of natural stone like marble, which is in high demand in the global economy. This wide variety of natural resources in Turkey helps the economy grow. So here's a couple more questions that you can look at. What are capital goods? The workers who make the goods and services, the factories and machines used to make goods. C, the money spent to train workers to use new technology. Or D, the goods and services that are produced for a country's economy. And question 313. Israel has invested heavily in capital goods in all the following areas except A, oil, B, defense, C, communication, D, farming and agriculture. Oops, sorry there. I paused a second. I was trying to see how far we were. Okay, natural resources are the raw materials a country has that make life and production of goods possible. Land, water, forest, rich soil, and minerals are all types of natural resources. In Southwest Asia, one of the most important natural resources for some country is oil. Some natural resources can be replaced once they are used, like the trees cut for lumber or fuel. Others like oil or coal cannot be replaced once they are used. Oil is one of the most important and valuable natural resources in Southwest Asia. Oil and natural gas are called fossil fuels, which mean they were created when plants and animals that lived centuries ago decayed underground. And that's interesting that we're seeing that because we're learning about that in science, or we did last week. Oil and natural gas also are considered non-renewable natural resources, meaning they cannot be replaced once they are taken out of the ground. Most of the world's industrial nations depend on a steady supply of oil and natural gases. The United States has to import nearly half of all the oil it uses, almost 18 million barrels every day. Many other countries have to do the same, and even though they also use other sources of energy such as coal, wind power, and nuclear power, for this reason, countries in Southwest Asia with large reserves of these products have steadily markets for all the oil and gas they produce. Many of the countries have become very rich in the last 50 years as the world demand for oil and gas has increased. Saudi Arabia and Iran are the two of the world's largest producers of oil. Over half the world's known supplies of oil are found in these countries. Israel has very few natural resources and practically no oil at all. Israel does have a highly developed industrial economy, so the world's price of oil has a huge impact on the Israeli economy. Because they have no oil of their own and an industrial economy that requires purchases of oil and natural gas to operate, this country has had to find other natural resources to develop in order to help the economy grow. Minerals are mined commercially in Israel, including phosphates. Salts are also taken from the Dead Sea. And Israel's economy depends more on technology and on the development of natural resources. But this also means Israel must always purchase oil to keep going. Okay, this page is a little wonky, so let's see if I can keep up. Saudi Arabia has very few natural resources, but the one they do have plenty of is oil. Oil production and the production of natural gases, petrochemicals, make up the majority of Saudi Arabia's economic wealth. Because Saudi Arabia has such large oil deposits, this country has become very influential in the world economy and the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, otherwise known as OPEC. The great wealth oil production has brought to Saudi Arabia has enabled the country to modernize agriculture, spending billions of dollars on irrigation and desalination, which we talked about before, technology. Many modern Saudi cities have built in areas that were once remote desert areas. They have modernized roads, schools, airports, and communication systems. Even though the oil wealth of the country technically belongs to the royal family, the Al Saudis, enormous sums of money have been spent to improve the lives of ordinary citizens. Saudi Arabia has gone from being a desert kingdom to a modern nation in less than 100 years. Unlike Saudi Arabia, Turkey has a variety of natural resources. Turkey has a small amount of oil reserves. However, they are not large enough to meet the needs of Turkey's economy and industry. This means that Turkey must import oil from other countries. Turkey's most valuable natural resource is arable land. Additionally, Turkey has many minerals like coal, iron, ore, copper, chromium, mercury, and gold. Turkey has the largest amount of marble in the world. So let's look at these questions right here. Why are oil and gas such valuable natural resources? Large deposits of oil and gas are found in most countries. It is easy to replace oil and gas supplies after they are used. C. Industrial countries depend on oil and gas as their energy supply. Or D. Oil and gas are the only sources of energy used around the world. Question 315. How much of the oil used by the United States has to be imported every day? A. 33%, B. 50%, C. 75%, or D. Nearly 100%. Next question, 316. How has the Saudi government used its national wealth to change the country? A. All Saudi citizens are given an equal share of the national wealth. B. The Saudi government has spent very little to improve the lives of ordinary citizens. C. The majority of the national wealth has been given to religious organizations in the country. Or D. The government has paid for improvements in transportation, education, healthcare, and agriculture. And then let's see. 317. How does Saudi Arabia benefit from belonging to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, known as OPEC? A. OPEC keeps the price of oil high on the world market. B. Countries in OPEC are able to share water resources with each other. C. The organization sets up tariffs to protect Southwest Asia manufacturing. Or D. OPEC makes it possible for Southwest Asian countries to buy oil at low prices. So that's our reading for today. I know it was a little long. So why don't you kind of go back through, find the answers to these questions, and do that before you take the Google Forms quiz, okay? So I hope y'all are doing well. I miss you a lot. And UCMS online is going pretty well. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.